What's up, guys? Today I wanted to share a little short story, so to speak, that I wrote a while back. I'm gonna try to do it as much as I can from memory, so bear with me. It was an old man. He had a farm, and it seemed like every time he would go to the market, there was always somebody asking him, are you ready? There's a big storm coming. He'd blow him off. He'd go about his day and he'd buy his supplies, and the next time he would go, it would be somebody else, are you prepared for the storm that's coming? It's going to be bad. You need to be ready. And he'd blow him off again, and this went on for a while. One day he was out feeding his animals, and a dark cloud came. And in a split second, the rain started coming down so hard that, he couldn't bear it. And he was trying to take off running. And he was running, but he noticed that it was starting to flood, and things were looking pretty grim. So he ran to a structure that he had in the middle of a field, and he grabbed a hold of it, and he got to noticing the water was just coming through, and it was busting through his barns, and it was knocking everything down, and he was holding on, for dear life. And the rain started coming down so hard that, it was painful, and he was screaming, crying out to God. See, he got caught out in this storm and he wasn't prepared, but he started begging and pleading with God to send him some help. And about that time, a piece of debris come floating by, and it was almost there for him to reach. But he was scared, and he kept holding on to this structure, and he was thinking, this is going to be good enough. This is going to be just fine. The water started getting a little bit deeper, and the rain started coming down a little bit harder. Started begging and pleading with God, please help me. Send me something to get me to safety. And he noticed just a little ways, there was a rock. And he knew in his head, that rock wasn't going to move. That rock was planted firmly. But he was too scared because of everything that was going on around him. It just looked chaotic. So he just kept holding on to this piece of building that he knew eventually was going to go. And he sat. He was just feeling hopeless. The rain was beginning to just overtake him, and the flood waters was coming up, and he was watching his whole life that he had built with this farm just turned to rubbish. It was being destroyed. He was thinking in his head, if I could just get to the rock, then I would be okay. But he was too scared. And he could hear God talking to him. He could hear him just let go. But he couldn't. He was just clenching onto that building because that was all he had left of this farm. That was all he had, and he didn't want to let it go. But he had to get to safety. And he didn't trust God at that moment. And he remembered all the times that he had been to the market, and they were telling him, you need to be ready. Prepare yourself for the storm that's coming. And he felt like a fool because he had brushed them off time and time again. But he was starting to get cold. He was starting to see that there was no hope. There was no point in holding on to that last piece of his farm that was left. And he let go. And as he floated with the waters, he was begging and pleading with God, please. And then he landed on the rock. Once he was on the rock, he started pleading with God, asking him, talking with him, and he started realizing that he should have prepared himself. That rock was there the whole time, right there in his property. That would have been his safety point that would have just helped him throughout the whole situation, but he didn't go to the rock. And even before that, he could have prepared himself. He could have known. That's just a little silly short story that I wrote a while back when I was thinking about it. But I think about today, how many times do we talk to somebody and try to give them the gospel, the word of Jesus Christ and what he can do for us, and that they just blow you off. But for me personally, that story is so relevant for today's time because we have so many people who are just blowing God off. They don't want to come to Jesus. They don't want to hear anything of the sort They're holding on to that structure that is eventually just going to be demolished. They don't want to go to the rock. They don't want to go to the firm foundation of Jesus Christ. They're not prepared for the storm that's coming. We live in a time where the things that are being pushed on us, that are being said to be right, with the homosexuals and the transgenders and the racism and, you know, just all of these things that the world is dwelling in, divorce, pornography, extramarital relationships, all of these things that the world has accepted, and many of which are telling us are good. There's so many people being deceived by the world, and they're not preparing for the storm that's getting ready to come. A little bit all over the place, but my question is, where are you at today? Are you prepared for what's to come? Or have you been deceived by the world into what is good and what is right? It's a little something to think about. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you. I thank you for giving us a foundation that we can build our lives on, that we can prepare for the storms that are coming, that you will shelter us from the storms. You will protect us when things get bad. But God, I pray for those that are deceived. And I pray for those that want to seek you, but they're being blocked out. I pray that you will come in, break down the walls, destroy anything that's keeping them from you, God, and show them that Jesus is the way. Let them come to him, call on him to enter their heart and change their ways and see what is good and what is true. In your name I pray. Amen.